Peacemaker was never supposed to be DC's crown jewel. That spot has always belonged to Superman. So when James Gunn announced he was rebooting the DCEU into the DCU with a brand new Superman, fans thought it would finally give the franchise its big comeback. But that didn't quite happen. The movie left audiences split, while a trash-talking guy in a chrome helmet became DC's breakout star. Strange, right? Unless you look at how Gunn set up Peacemaker to succeed, while Superman was doomed to stumble. We've pulled critic scores, fan reactions, and streaming numbers to break down exactly why Gunn's Peacemaker works and Superman doesn't. And it's not for the reasons you think. Superman is sacred ground. Decades of stories and fan devotion have made him nearly untouchable. Every punch, every line, every expression is weighed against his massive legacy. When Gunn became co-chair of DC Studios, he didn't just inherit Superman, he inherited all the baggage that came with him. He couldn't make him edgy, absurd, or overly violent. He had to protect the icon. That's a huge creative burden. Now look at Peacemaker. He's an obscure side character nobody outside hardcore fans really knew. That gave Gunn total freedom. He could bring in absurd humor, needle-drop soundtracks, over-the-top violence, and yes, even a CGI bald eagle. He had nothing to lose and everything to gain. He could make audiences laugh, cringe, and root for a messy, morally conflicted anti-hero, all in the same episode. As Gunn once said, as time went on, the quote-unquote female badass started to occur. I didn't necessarily like that because they weren't badasses like Star-Lord or Deadpool. They didn't have personalities. They were still perfect badasses. Allowing flaws in those characters was, to me, the coolest thing you could do. And that's the difference. With Superman, Gunn had to pull back. With Peacemaker, he could go all in. Audiences felt that freedom in every scene. Restrained storytelling feels cautious. Free storytelling feels alive. That's why Peacemaker pulled a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, while Superman sat at 83%. Peacemaker is a disaster of a man. Reckless, flawed, and sometimes downright awful. He lies, cheats, kills, and still somehow earns our sympathy. That's the anti-hero. Unpredictable, chaotic, human. Superman is the exact opposite. He's flawless, the ultimate symbol of hope, justice, and righteousness. But he's also predictable, safe, and sometimes boring. Gunn thrives with messy characters. Look at Rocket, Star-Lord, and the Guardians. They started out as outcasts, yet became lovable through humor, vulnerability, and raw humanity. Peacemaker gave Gunn the same playground. He could let him fail, break down, or even do terrible things, and we still rooted for him. With Superman, Gunn can't take those chances. The character has to stay untouchable. Any risky change could alienate fans or taint the legacy. That's the gap. The anti-hero can surprise and evolve. The archetype can't. You loved Peacemaker because Gunn built him from the ground up. Superman, no matter how iconic, felt stiff because every scene carried decades of expectations. Storytelling thrives on imperfection and risk. Peacemaker had both. Superman didn't. Tone is everything. Peacemaker is pure James Gunn. Brutal fights, absurd comedy, and unexpected emotional gut punches. One second you're laughing at Cena's dance, the next you're cringing at bloody violence. Then you're tearing up at a broken man desperate for his father's approval. It's chaotic, but it works. Superman, on the other hand, demands sincerity and gravitas. He has to inspire. He can't crack Deadpool-style jokes or dance in a helmet. He needs to be timeless, noble, symbolic. And that's what makes his stories harder to reinvent. The result? Peacemaker feels energetic, surprising, and alive. Superman feels noble, but weighed down by nostalgia and obligation. When Gunn directed Peacemaker, he had the court to himself. With Superman, he was confined by tradition. Not because he's a bad director, because Superman doesn't allow the same freedom of tone. When Peacemaker was first announced in 2022, no one expected much. The hype was mostly around John Cena's casting, but with low expectations came room to experiment. Gunn went wild, and it paid off. Critics loved it, fans were hooked, and HBO Max saw a major subscriber boost. Superman, completely different story. He's one of the most iconic heroes of all time. Every reboot faces intense scrutiny, and when DC replaced Henry Cavill with David Corenswet, the internet exploded. Snyderverse fans felt betrayed, convinced Cavill was the perfect Superman. One frustrated fan wrote, "I hope this reboot isn't true because Henry Cavill should be your priority. This man has fought for years to stay Superman." Between Superman's history, the DCEU failures, and Cavill's exit, Gunn faced an impossible challenge. He had to honor Superman's legacy and launch a rebooted DCU. Unlike Peacemaker, there was no room to experiment. So why does Peacemaker work while Superman falters? Freedom. Gunn took a forgotten character and turned him into a violent, funny, broken anti-hero in a show that felt alive. With Superman, he was chained to decades of cultural weight and expectations. One story was unshackled, the other was burdened. So what do you think? Did Gunn's Superman deliver as a reboot, or was it crushed under legacy? And is Peacemaker really his masterpiece? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you love breakdowns like this, hit like and subscribe to Silver Screen Hero for more deep dives coming soon.